starting Lecha is it's a very interesting sedler because we have a problem with the timeline. And taking the sedler as it goes Keseder, it wouldn't fit into a lot of things. But the main thing is it wouldn't fit into, if it gets Tanoim, you'll say they have to fit into the Chumash, instead of the Chumash have to fit into them. But the idea is the Bris Ben Absorim seems, according to everybody, took place when he was 70 years old. And the Bais of Lecha takes place when he's 75, so at least 5 years before the Bris Ben Absorim took place. And it makes sense in the sense that it says Terach and wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, to Eretz Canaan. He took with him Avram, Sarai, and Lech, and they stopped in Choron. And it's about Yeshu Shom. That's the big kasha. Really says they lived there. Could be goes on all of them, or Parshas maybe just on Terach, but they stopped there. Maybe they settled for a while, and within a short period of time, they went on to Eretz Yisrael without Terach. And then this took place the second half of the settler. But the beginning, I'll explain why I think it's not in order. In a minute, we'll talk about that. But anyway, that's the main problem with the timeline. You keep that in mind, we'll understand a lot of things that take place in the beginning of the settler. The Bein Shem comes to Avram and he's telling him, Lech Lecha, and this is a Nisoyan. This is considered a major Nisoyan to Avram Avinu. And the Kasha is, why is this a major concern? I mean, Nisoyan. We all know all the Mexicans that go and cleaning up the yards by everybody. They're here and their families are back in Mexico. They came because they came for Panosa. What's the kasha? How many Yidden came in the 1920s and they just with the kavana to bring over their family, and they worked over here for weeks and months and years without their family? Why is it in the sign? The Bein Shem promises him success. What promises success? So why would there be any in the sign? So Shiva learned the reason is in the sign is because everybody can only give me a success in another place. For instance, the Mexicans came to America because America can give the success. Mexico can't give the success, so they have to come to America. But Avram's taina should have been that the Rebbeinu Shalom to you don't make a difference. You can give me the success in Choron, so why are you making me go to Eretz Yisrael? He has an additional kasha that I tried already Eretz Canaan, and was unsuccessful. And I came back to Choron, and in Choron I made a nefesh shorosu b'Choron. So I was very successful in Choron. So why are you asking me to move and take my success and go back to my place of failure? That would have been the basic kasha that anybody would ask. And Avram Avinu does not ask. And that's the main point, that the wilderness journey has basically come down to one point. The kashas are great, and Avram Avinu does not ask, because he has total trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore there's nothing to ask. I don't have to ask any questions. I know it's going to be fine. I know it's going to be perfect. I know it's going to be the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore he follows orders. Okay, we see from here, though, from the way the Rebbeinu Shalom is promising, God l'shmecha, bracha, and all this thing, that it seems that we know that he's a Talmud of Noach. It fits. Now, we know all the stories of Avram as a child coming to that Koch Miatzmoi, that there's a Rebbeinu Shalom in the world. If you don't remember the stories, ask probably your grandchildren or your children that are 3 years old and under, and they probably can tell you the story that So obviously he must have been that when he finally came to the Hakaveh, that this Rabbeinu Shalom, he went and asked people, is there anybody else that believes in this? And they pointed him out to Noach, and he became a Talmud of Noach. And Noach was believed as Lakimis Halach Noach, that the Rabbeinu Shalom, be frum, it's good for you. God takes care of you, right? So therefore, it's when you follow God's orders, you get Hatzlacha. And you see from the fact, go follow my orders, and you're going to have all these brachas. And this will continue until he's 99 years old, the end of the Seder. He will consider with this type of Emunah b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, when it said before in Parshas Noach, it said they compared Avram to Noach, and it says over there because he says Asher Salech Lefonai by Avram. That's after he's 99 years old. Okay. So anyway, that's what's going on, and he goes Vayelech Avram. So Lot went Vayelech Itay Lot means Lot went as a partner. I'm going with you. Okay. Then it says that Avram took his wife and his nephew. That means now he took Lot as a Talmud. No, he's not taking him as an equal, but that relationship is not a push at the relationship. But as opposed to that, Avram's, what do you call it, definitely Achshava, was that Lot is going to be the inheritor, ultimately, of Avram, because so far he has no children, and Lot is his brother-in-law, it's his nephew, so he has a good relation, and he's a former guy, and Lot's a tzaddik. Okay, so and they went. And again, these things, he has nisyonis as he goes along. It says, he kept going south, meaning the Rabbeinu Shalom did not stop him off at any one place yet. And now he's waiting for that place where the Rabbeinu Shalom is promising me that I should be successful, like being going to reach this Madrege, and it's not happening yet. And I'm in that Canaan, and it's still not happening. So, again, no questions. Then all of a sudden there's a hunger. The first hunger in the world. And it's only there to get Avram to go to Mitzrayim. It's the whole purpose of the hunger. And he has to go to Mitzrayim. Here's a tremendous insight. You're going to Mitzrayim, you're taking me out of Eretz Yisrael anyway. Why don't you leave me in Chon? Why are you sending me to Mitzrayim for? Now, again, he does not ask this question. But he says a very funny thing. Well, first of all, he says, Hine yadati ishi fasmaret. I learned that you are a beautiful woman. How do you know that? It says that he saw in the water, the reflection, and he realized that he's a beautiful woman. Now, did he know what she looked like? He didn't know what she looked like. If he didn't know what she looked like, he can't be married to her, because the Torah tells us the reason that each person is created differently in the Tzuras is in order that everybody should know who he belongs to, who the wife and the husband is. It shouldn't be a mix-up of, who everyone can claim, I'm your husband, I'm your wife. So everybody has to look different in order that we can recognize them. So obviously Avram knows what his wife looks like. Besides, when this Inyan is brought down in Masechtas Ketanis, it's brought down as the Midah of Bushe. In other words, we have three Midas that we inherited from Avram Avinu. They made it genetic for us. One is about Machal Chesed, have Achmanis, and to be a Baisha. Right? And how do you know to be a Baisha? Machal Chesed, we know from the Maaseh for the Malachim and Vayera, that he has Achmanis, he prays for Shdaim. But how do you know that he's a Baishan. So they say it comes from this thing. Now, how does this prove that he's a Baishan? It wouldn't seem to prove he's a Baishan. The fact that he never looked at his wife, that doesn't make him a Baishan. So I think what it means is that he knew what his wife looked like. But the Yikir is not Riyah. And when you talk about an elbow and anything else, you're allowed to look at them. You have to know that you're talking to somebody, a man or woman. I mean, whatever it is there. You have to know if you have to watch yourself or not, if it's a man or woman. So obviously you have to know the difference. I can't be mistakel. You're not allowed to stare at a person, at a woman. That's the point. So he didn't do any stockless. If you'll ask him, what color eyes are your wife's eyes? Wouldn't know. And I'll ask you really truthfully, everybody knows what their mother looks like. How many of you really know what color eyes your mother has? Okay. How come you don't know? So obviously I never looked. What do you mean you never looked? You look at your mother all the time, every day. Hell of us, that's not called looking. Or that's called I saw. I didn't look. Look is like a stare. And that's what he doesn't do. That Avram didn't do. So he can't tell you all the connection in her, all the what are they called? You have those holes in your face. Dimples. I can't tell you how many dimples you have, and I can't tell you what do you call if you high cheekbones, low cheekbones. Never was my eye in any of these things, but Lemaisa, I know what you look like. Okay, but now that he saw her and he was able to see things that he didn't see before, he sees that she'll be a problem by going down to Mitzrayim. Like this, why would it be a problem going to Mitzrayim? I mean, there's many pretty women in the world. Okay. So all of us, you didn't stare, and that's what it means. I never stared you down. That is one of the, I remember with the Shkotzim years ago, when you want to start a fight, the easiest way to start a fight is who you're looking at. And as soon as you said that, if the guy would answer you got to fight. The guy says nobody, then the guy chickened out. But Lamaisa, you know what you were fighting about. I looked him in the eye, and I told him, right? So somehow, this looking in the eye, staring somebody down, that's an issue of brazenness. That's, in a way, chutzpah, the way to take it. That's why it's bushe. I don't ever had this chutzpah to do such a thing. And mainly, even with his wife, he didn't do that. And therefore, it doesn't say, so I'm saying, so as far as bushe, it fits very good. I never stared at my wife, because stared, she may feel uncomfortable that I'm staring at her. I never made anyone uncomfortable because I was embarrassed to do that. It's bullshit. Okay. And he tells a very funny thing. He says, so they're going to kill me because they want to take you, and you're not allowed to live. I mean, I forget you your life, but I'd like to join it. They would like you to say that you're my sister, that they should do me favors, in other words, give me gifts, and also they'll stay alive. If he was truly worried, which one should he have said first? They'll keep me alive, and maybe they'll also give me some gifts. But the main is they'll keep me alive. They're not going to kill me. There's no reason to kill me. And he puts that second. So there really is that Avram over here is coming down to Mitzrayim. We'll talk about how he came down, if Rashi agrees, we'll see in a minute. Now he's coming to Mitzrayim with this whole Nefesh HaShos B'choron. I don't know how many people that is, but it's an entourage. And they're coming to Mitzrayim. So even though he has this entourage, the power of the Mitzrayim will not be afraid of him in order to kill him. I mean, they're interested in the wife, they'll take him. So if he has a brother, maybe they'll treat me as a choshev guy. Okay, they came to Mitzrayim. We'll see in a second what they did. Oh yeah, so what is Avram? Why is he I'm going to show in a minute that Avram is the richest man in the world. So if he's the richest man in the world, why is it necessary for him to get more money? It says, V'yidav li ba'avorech. Elevos, v'anadin the Benshim promised me godless after I'm 75. You know, doesn't use the word riches over there. It says, godless shmecha. And even though you're what he called, so I have to do my shtatus to continue whatever Benshim's chotzen is. I don't know what it is, but I have to continue it. And then as far as his life, he has to do shtatus. Now, if he wants presents and he wants his wife noticed, or he's assuming that if he be noticed, maybe he'll get some money because of it, that's called the shtadlus that he's doing, according to me, then he has to make sure that Sorah is found. Because it's very easy to disguise somebody. We got to put in it to make a woman look ugly. For being beautiful, you just put some cotton in her cheeks and put a pillow under her belly, and she's no more beautiful, right? So why is he so worried? What's the problem? They're going to look at the woman, see the picture. This is you're going into customs over there, and whatever it is, you're going to come into the country. That way, they definitely will not notice her. She'll get in. There's no question that he could have done that. That's not what he did. He puts her in a box. You know, you put someone in a box, you have to carry it. How do you carry a box? Right? How do you carry a box? Got 2 people, 4 people, and the person's in one side of the box, the second side of the box tilts. That's what or you pack it up with a lot of heavy stuff and put them in the middle. You can do that way. I mean, could be. Then you need you need probably 8 guys or 10 guys to carry the box. Right? You're talking about a box. Elevos, box shakes. It tilts. Kasha, what make the box tilt? Oh, let's see what's in this box. And we find Sorah's there. And they look at Sorah. Why is he hiding Sorah? Why didn't he just put, what do you call it? Oh, let's see what she looks like. And they go, what's up? And I said, let Parah find out about it. Now, Parah finds out about it, and all of a sudden, he'd like to be Mizana. Talking about Parah's the Melech, right? He doesn't take any different. He can just take the girl and say, come on, just like Achashverosh did, and say, and Achashverosh is paying any money for any of the women that he collected. He collected all the women. So Parah says, bring me the woman. What's the kasha? Why should he pay for it? And if he does pay for it, just Yitzhazayim, because Focht, like it shouldn't have tainas on him, so give 5 cows. That's a beautiful one. A single woman who would have given up a little goat, maybe. But for her, you see, for his nus alone from Yehuda, it was worth a sheep. That's all it was, a shepselet. That's all she is. So his nus is only worth a shepselet. It's a beautiful woman, with 2 shepselet, with 10 cows. What did Avram have? They gave him what? Heiti v'avur v'litzon u'boker v'chamorim v'avodim v'shvochis v'aseines v'gemalim. No, it has no horses, by the way. Even though Mitzrayim is the place of horses, because that was their military advantage, and they're not giving it out to anybody. Okay, so anyway, it has all these things, but they gave him all these different things financially, which is, even if you gave 2 of each, it's a tremendous amount of stuff, money. And later we see that it was even Zehov and Kesef also thrown in there. Why would Parah do this? So as I said, Avram Avinu was the richest man in the world. We'll see later on again the timeline that the fight of the Milchama between the 4 and 5 kings took place the first time Avram was in Eretz Canaan. And when he defeated them and killed them all out, and he also saved Melech Sodom, so when Melech Sodom says to him, Ten li hakesev Ken li anefesh, give me the people, and chosim kachloch, and you take chush kachloch, you take all the property, and the stuff like that, and Avram turns it down. Whose property is he talking about? Only about Sdoim's property. He doesn't want ani heshaltis Avram. That should be that Avram should have property, that Sdoim has property that Sdoim later owns, that Avram later owns. So therefore, I don't want you to say that you got me. What about the money that belonged to Kedor Loima and his army? Now, assuming a knight or whatever, a Choshve guy, and if you call it a ganze Shaila how big this army was, and if you hold it was 185,000 Roshi Gaisos, that means you had 185,000 generals there, so each one had probably a couple of avodim, right? And if you kill them out, you keep the avodim. So I have thousands and thousands upon avodim. And if you're talking about that, and even if you're talking about the whole army, it was 185,000. That was it. So we still had a certain amount of avodim they have in there. All the nechosim that these 185,000 soldiers had, he has. And besides, this army killed the Refoim, the Amim, and the Chayri, the Amaleki, and the Mayri. They killed all of them and took all their properties before. So all the properties that they accumulated on their body, also Avram has. This is that. Why should he give this to Sdoim? There's no reason to give it to Sdoim. It doesn't belong to Sdoim. So it all belongs to him. So he's probably the richest man in the world. And he's also known as a very powerful man. Now Yosef is a powerful man. Why was he afraid that they'll kill him? Very simple. To kill somebody in a dinner or something like that, all it has to do is the waiter put some poison into the glass. That's all it is there. So it's very easy for someone who controls, who's the host, to kill the guest. So definitely he doesn't want to be killed, no matter who he is. Right? Obel Lemaise, as he's this rich man and this powerful man. Pari says, he has this beautiful sister. Why shouldn't I become his mechutin? His brother-in-law. Now, of course, to get such a choshve woman, I'm chayiv to give out great gifts, because he's going to be my brother-in-law, and you want to be a shidduch. You want to make a shidduch, you send gifts to them that are passive, that you see later on, that Eliezer gives to Psuel and to Lavan, gives him gifts, because the idea is you want to take the daughter, you got to give gifts. So he's giving gifts. That's what he wants. And since he's such a choshver guy, you got to give more and more gifts. I can't give you a cow, because to you it means nothing. So what I got to give you, I give you who knows what. It look like a mamish, a wonderful gift. So that's why he has all this money. Okay. And now Papa is a very interesting person. He sees Avram being a holy person, Benjamin sticking up for him and not letting him let Paradu going to. What does he do? He kicks him out of the country. Right? Avimelech asks him, please stay in my country. He got Sarah, go, but you stay in my country because I want a holy man in my country. That's the Avimelech and Pari. Okay. Anyway, now, if Avram was the brother, so Lech is the kid brother. So if he's going to pay them both, he gave them both presents. Okay. He gave them both presents. I forgot what I wanted to say. Okay. I forgot. Anyway, they both have presents, and they're coming down to Eretz Yisrael. And
the goddess of Lech's not saying anything?
Oh, thank you. Okay. What was the godless? That it says that the Benishim gave a chalukah to Ammon Amoyev because the Yerusha's late, B'nai Leit. He gave it really Leit's land. He gave it to Leit. Why is Leit entitled to anything? Anyway, Leit's not a Jew. He's not anything there. He says, so they bring down, Rashi brings down, that because he did not squeal on Avram. Now let's be realistic. Avram is his brother-in-law. Okay, it's also his uncle, his Rebbe. Why would he squeal on him? So it's not shot he would squeal. But that you don't feel that Avram that told everybody, guys, quiet, I'm going to say Sarah is my sister, and everybody, you better keep their mouth shut. There's no reason to talk about it because they may not ask the question. All right, so we come down, and they ask, who's this? And Avram says, this is my sister. And Leit's standing over there. And Leit should have said, no, I'm not saying he would squeal, but he should have said, what? And he didn't say anything, because he would have said something, they would have started the question. Avram says he's a brother, so he's a brother. Doesn't bother me, I'll ask him maybe later. But right now, I'm not asking any questions. And for that, he gets the husha. But the thing is that he never gave away the fact that Avram was not Saul's brother. Anyway, they give them both down, and they come down to thing, and here you have, let's see what he comes down to Mitzrayim from. Avram kovid ma'od ba'mikne ba'kesev u'ba'zohov ba'yelch u'masov. Okay. Before I go into that, there's a Rashi before why that Avram went back the same way he came, because he had to pay back all the hotels that he stayed in. Okay, so first of all, we can say such a thing, but according to what I'm just saying, he had plenty of money. Maybe he had no cash. I can't answer. You'll have a guy, Bezos, this very rich man, but that's because he has the money in stock. He has how much liquid does he have? I have no idea. So maybe he needed some liquid. That's a shvachatat. Rashi is just trying to bavon as the normal pshat in the psukim that you don't see what I just said. So you can say, what's he going back? But he tells you a very big yesod, Rashi, that we have to learn from this. Rashi says that you have to stay in the same place you stayed the first time. What do you mean? I'm pleased. I wasn't pleased. Okay, you weren't pleased, you don't have to stay there. But if you were pleased, there's no reason that you go anywhere else. That's the kamayla of being a customer by someone. If they give you good service, they give you what you want. But I don't go and say, well, let's see what the other guy got. You're not allowed to do that. We do that when we go to hotels, we go to that. Last year I went to this guy, I was very pleased, but they advertising over there who knows what, and I want to go find out who knows what is. So therefore I'm going to go over there. And you shouldn't do that. You should stay where you're normally happy with, and so on. This is in all businesses. You're buying things, you have a guy that sells you furniture, a guy that sells, whatever the tick, my butcher, my grocery store, it's all the same thing. I don't go to different stores. Now for sales, I can go to different stores. Convenience, I can go to different stores. Okay.
Avram wasn't concerned about what they're going to do.
I'm sorry?
Avram wasn't afraid what they're going to do with Sarah. Sounds like Rosh
Obviously he wasn't. And you asked me why not. I guess because the Ben Shon's supposed to take care of me. It's a mess, right? I can't answer the question, why you semich on a ness, but I guess he was semich on a ness in the first place. I don't believe he's going to kill me, because that's why he said they'll give my tonnes first and then say they'll let me live. I mean, if you're worried about your life, he really wasn't worried about his life. Ben Shon said, I got l'shmecha, v'ei so if you're going to do all that, it can't be that you'll kill me. I'll get killed, so then probably you can't touch my wife. whatever it is there. But it's a good kasha why he was saying mechana. But I assume that the haftocha of what he told him was, what about the first time though? Why wasn't he choshed that anybody had chepped his wife? And he said, you don't find anybody chepped his wife the first time. Not Mitzrayim. Maybe he never went to Mitzrayim, and he never went to Plishtim. What about the Canaanim? They're a lot worse than them, right? So how come they didn't touch you? They didn't chep you? Obviously they didn't. Gosh, why? Or maybe there I had no reason that they should find her, so I disguised her. So I put the cotton in her mouth, whatever it is there. So I knew she was beautiful. But she put the cotton in her mouth. She knew she was beautiful. How did she know she was beautiful? Akasha, baby told her, oh, you're beautiful. Well, they saw why didn't she knew she was beautiful. She knew she was beautiful. And therefore she made sure that nobody's going to touch her. Okay. So now they have a fight. Right? They have a lot of property, a lot of stuff, and they have a fight. Now the pride that we know in the Midrashim is that the Royaloid wanted to put their animals on people's property, and the Rei Avram objected. You're stealing. And their answer was that Avram has no children, and the inheritor of Avram is late, so they're just taking the land a little earlier. That's all. The land belongs to Avram, and so they're entitled to it. All right, the answer is not a very good one, because you're not entitled to it when Avram's not here anymore. But the Maisa, okay, we hear at least where they're coming from. But they're crooks, okay, and they have a fight. They call them crooks, and they say, we're not crooks, or whatever it is. They come back, and they have a riv. The Medrash says on this over here, it's brought down in Tvorah Garden, that what caused Lot to leave that tzaddik, which means to leave Avram, a fight, the riv. And shalom doesn't come from riv. You can't have peace from a riv, from a fight. If the people already are at the point where they're fighting with each other, it's actually very hard to bring peace. The Lashon is, if you want, it's a pushing in Kiseitze, the end of Kiseitze, it goes on the Pasuk, okay. Ki Yariv ben Anoshim, and then the Indian over there, V'tzikos HaTzadik, let's see what he says, plus Aleph. Ki Yariv, Soifer Liyas Negoshim Al HaMishpat. Omer Me'ata Ein Sholem Yetzim Teich Meriva. We don't have peace come out of a fight. Migoram Leit Lifreit Mishnat Tzadik Hava Omer Zu Meriva. What caused Leit to leave? And the tzaddik, that's the meriva. It's the fight. So what does it mean for the fight to cause them to leave? I mean, they could have made peace. They could have. We don't get peace. We still have bad resentment, whatever it is exists in fight. Okay, good. It's resentment. First of all, the fight was between the Royim and not. But from that story, the way the things over there, that the fight doesn't come from a river. Who started the fight? It's not the Royaloid. The Royaloid went and did the Averis. They wanted to do the Averis. It's when the Rei Avram stopped them that they became all of a sudden a fight. Right? So obviously the fight came from Rei Avram. So how should the Rei Avram avoid a fight? I mean, they have a Maisa here. You see the Royaloid are going to do an Aver, going to do Geneva, whatever it is there, and they have to keep, and they can't keep quiet. They got to be Meicha. They can be Meicha. Basically, they should have said to them like this, Royaloid, what are you doing? And the Leit will explain to him, well, I mean, what's wrong with what we're doing? So then the Avram will say that this property belongs to other people. It belongs to Canaanites. So the Avram would then, the Leit would then say, but the land belongs to Avram, and Leitus is Yairish, and therefore we have a right to the land over here. So he says, so the way Avram should have then said, it's a good time, I hear what you're saying, but it's a funny thing. Avram himself told us to go to the Midbar and not to put out our animals on people's land. And if you're right, so why would Avram tell us such a thing? We don't know. So let's wait till we get home. We'll ask Avram what happened. And then they wouldn't have been stealing, and they wouldn't, and you would have not had a fight, right? The thing is that what happened is, instead of doing that, they called them a bunch of crooks. Once you called me a crook, I call you back names. And then, unfortunately, we have a fight, and therefore we can't have shalom anymore. But l'chatchila, so when you moiche somebody, it's not to go down, how you give teichacha is very important. First of all, you can learn out of the Pasuk L'sisol of Chet, which really doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean, but you can explore it in the Parshas HaPasuk, Chiach Techiach of Chet, L'sisol of Chet, that you shouldn't cause him to react in a way that would cause him to do a Ve'era. And in God, on the Pasuk in the Seforim, the Malbim over there brings that when you give the Eidim, give Haschoya to an Aveira, and an Aveira, they have to give an Haschoya in a way that the guy is Mekabel is serious. For instance, a guy would be doing an Aveira, and two Eidim come along and he said, you do that Aveira, you're going to be Chayiv Misa. We're going to tell you and they're going to kill you. And the guy said, what are you telling me? You guys are telling me what Pshat in the Halacha is? You don't know what you're talking about. I'm the Talmud Chacham. This is not an Aveira. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to do it again and again and again, just to show you that there's no Aveira involved. Right? And we're going to kill him. Because we gave him Haschoya and he didn't listen. Right? But we have to make sure that he doesn't react that way. You have to say, so, maybe, Rebbe, you forgot that you taught us this is also. You gotta stop and think. I never taught you anything like that, but that's how the coverage you're supposed to give to a Rebbe or a father when he does it, and when you see him doing an Aveira, how do you stop him? You can't tell him, stop. You gotta do the Cheretz. So you're supposed to say, didn't you teach me that this is also? And then the person realizes that it's also. But they don't have to, So there's ways of doing things that don't cause people to do Averis. And that's the most important part. You don't cause people to do Averis by your Teichacha. Anyway, so Avram tells him to separate, and it's God. It's interesting. They dash him from this pasuk. I don't know if it's a Nemesis Droshe. I don't know where I saw it. I can't remember. Im hasmol ve'imino v'im hayomin v'asmeila. So this is the Rebbeinu Shalom talking to people between Asher ve'Aser, right? Im hasmol, if you're going to put the pintale and make it into a sin, Aser, ve'imino, I'll make it Asher. If on the end you're going to make it Asher, you want to be richer, I'll make it in the thing up, but on the left, you only life of the Maisa, and the thing over there. It sounds like a Goyen Zavach, and if I heard it from someone, I would think it was my friend Al Heflush in the Torah, but he used to tell me Goyen's words, so it's a guy that died a few years ago, my friend for about 80 years, so not quite 70, about 70 years, 65. Okay. Anyway, and they all separated, and Lech picked to go to Sdoim, because Doim was ki gan Hashem. It's called when we kikula bashke lifnei shichas Hashem's Doim v'samayir ki gan Hashem ke'eretz Mitzrayim b'Eretz. So in other words, he's depicted the nicest land in Eretz Canaan. He's going down to Doim. I don't think it's Eretz Canaan. It's a little out of Eretz Canaan. But okay, he's going down to Doim. That's where he's going. It's a good place. Rashi says when Lech left, but then it says the next pashik, Hashem Omer Avram Achi Port Lech Me'imoi. So he says, why did he say that pasuk? Because as long as the Rosh was with him, then the Rosh didn't talk to him. Port Lech Me'ito, when the Rosh went away, then the Rosh didn't come. Who said Lech's a tzaddik? Why do you consider him a Rosh? Why do you call him a Rosh? Because the thing is, you were there already in Zdoim by the water Malachim, which was 5 years earlier, 3 years earlier, whatever years earlier, but it was earlier. And you knew what kind of people living there. And it says here, and that's said before, Vashem Omas Vanshis Doim Boim V'Chatem L'Shem Ma'id. You know, these Rishonim are living there. So why'd you go back? That means that you're willing to live among the Shoyim. Why are you willing to live among the Shoyim? Because among the Shoyim, I stand out as a tzaddik. If I lived among tzaddikim, I wouldn't stand out. And you'll see that in the thing there. When the Malachim destroys Doim, they ask him if he wants to go a Harav, if he should go, do you take him to Avram? So at that time already he's already, no, he's still Avram already, by the Doim there is Avraham already. Yeah, you go Avraham, you want to go to Avram, you can't go to Avram. Avram will die by Avram. Of course, because God can compare me to Avram, I'm a Rosh. But among them, I come to Rishoyim, I'm a tzaddik. So therefore, I want to go among the Rishoyim. So he doesn't hold the person has to become as big as he become. He just has to be the biggest in the place he is. So the easiest thing is to go a place where Rishoyim are. So he can be the biggest among they are. And that's one of the reasons, or maybe the reason, that Lech is not part of Klal Yisrael. Because he was able to go to the Stom again, even though we'll see that the war was fought only because Avram wanted to save Lech, because he was his Yerush, but otherwise there was no reason. It would be impossible odds. Why would you want to go to save Lech? No one, not any of us. I mean, weren't around at that time, but the ones that were around at the time in the Second World War, all saying we'll kill the Germans, they were going to save all the Jews and stuff there. Or what can I do? There's nothing for me to do, so I'm here, right? So same thing with Avram. If you had even 158,000 soldiers, 185,000 soldiers, or even if you had or the other ways of Havad, impossible to fight them. And how many men did he have? Just 2. So what is he going to fight them with? Right? Even if you call it literally 318, yes, 318 is also not enough. 319 to find a war. So what do you want me to do? But all of us, Avram figured out that if the Bnei Shleilim saved him from Urkazna, right? So the Bnei Shleilim can do anything, right? So he'll win the war against them also. But why are you fighting the war? Oh, because I have to save Lech. Without Lech, I don't have a religion anymore. When I die, it's over. So I need Lech to continue the legacy. So therefore, for that, the Bnei should do an S. And for that, that's why he was Seimach on that. That he went and did and then the fought the Ness to save Lech. But Lech now, which is a few years later, is picking to go back there. So that means now more chelik of Klal Yisrael. Now we're separated. We're 2 different people. And when that happens, that he realizes it, or he picked it, or like a little bit different than Rashi. Just the things that he became a Rosha with this, and by becoming a Rosha, the Ben Shem says to Muzaracha, to your kids, I'm going to give it to. Lech doesn't have any sheikh over here at all. I'm going to give this to your kids. Okay.
What was he considered a Russian? I thought Rashi was saying
Because he
Hashem
went
didn't
back
talk
to the place.
But when did Hashem not talk? I thought he was saying that Hashem didn't want to talk to the
I understand. He didn't talk to him, Taka, as long. Why? Because Lech was Taka. If this was in Lech's mind the whole time, I'm going back to Zdaim, or I'd like Zdaim, or whatever it is, or this Machshava, that I want to be the best among where I am, instead of what I can be. So that's a Russia.
So even before he decided that he was going back.
Yeah, even though before he decided, there was a Machshava in his mind. Like, this is... Alleen with Avram, he keeps things too hard. You have to learn the Shas every week. You don't, man, it's too hard for me. Yeah, but once a month will be good enough. Okay. Now it tells you the story of the horse. Okay, and as I said, when you look over the psukim, you'll see what that's it. Now you'll ask the kasha, if it says 4 kings against 5 kings. So it sounds like I take it on the way he uses the numbers, but you would think that the 5 kings are, outnumber the 4 kings. There's 5 of them. There's only 4 of them. The 5 of them are city kings, like mayors. So how many people do they have? They're all in the little Kikayadin, down over there where Yamamelech is. How many people could they have? Right? And the 5, that's the 5. The 4 kings are real kings. They're melech of countries. In other words, one is what he called Elam, which is mamish, a big country. I don't know how many people had at that time, but there are a lot of people. Elam. And especially they had such an army as we spoke about. And Amrafel is what he called it, is Bavel. And what he called, so he's got the United States. That's the thing, whatever it is, the United States. That's what kind of war is this? It's so lopsided, it doesn't even make any sense. I mean, why would they go to war? So this is just, I have no idea the thing, but saying it with a tongue in cheek, it may be real. The Sdoim had an air force, and Kedolaima didn't. And we all know if one side has an air force, they're going to win, no matter what you got underground. Because once you control the sky, you just control the battle, because you just shoot them all down. Doesn't make a difference. And where'd they get an air force? It's from Shemeva. Shemeva is just whatever he called Shemeva, who put his name in his mouth and he would fly. Why do you tell me such a bubba myself for? Who cares? He flew. What is so we call him Shemeva? He flew as a medrash. So what's the point of it? I'm saying get an air force. They knew how to think this, so therefore it wasn't only him. He had all his people with him, and they all flew. And they didn't fly themselves like little what he called Captain Marvel or whoever. He's flying there, and there's Superman with his hands outside and they're flying. Those are the wings and everything's off and the thing there. He flew means he got in an airplane and flew. Okay. Now maybe Rashi uses a kipshute, the way they think Dalton, what's the tachlis of, because Rashi had no airplane, he couldn't imagine it. The thing Dalton did. You see the Rambam can't imagine it. He says, if a person who imagines something that can't possibly be, in Shmeina Prakim, Kegoin, a boat flying in the sky, an iron boat flying in the sky, obviously you couldn't imagine it. Why? Because to him it was after that. Now you'll say, well, maybe a boat can't fly. Only an airplane flies because it puts the air under the wings, the propellers or the jet, whatever it does, and by doing that, it gives the propulsion to go weiter. A boat's not shaped the proper way. I don't really know about that. I mean, it's probably a rocket ship is definitely not has no wings and no what do you call it, and it flies. You got enough propulsion to push through something. So what he says is whatever it is, just he didn't know. So. Right. Okay, they came after the war. He wins the war. Then by them winning the war means he killed them all out. And he comes to Malki Tzedek. Malki Tzedek gives him the bracha. And from there, at this time, it changes from Malki Tzedek, who's the Kohen, the Kelelya, and that means the Rebbeinu Shloilem. He's Noach's son Shem, who's the Kohen. Will now change because he put Avrom's name before Kelelya. For that reason, he lost the Kahuna, and that went to Levi. And it goes to Avrom technically, meaning it'll go ultimately to Levi. Okay. Then it says, after these things happen, after the Milchama, so Rashi says, Achad Dvorim means near. Whenever it says Achri Hadvorim, it means far. Achad Dvorim means close. It's near. It was right after the war. He says, the Rebbeinu Shem came to Avram and he told me, don't worry, you're going to have a lot of schar. And the Rebbeinu Shem, and Avram answers the Rebbeinu Shem, Hashem Elokim Matitali, what are you going to give me? V'anechi Elechaviri, I have no children. Meshek Beisi Uda Mesek Eliezer. And the one who runs my house is the Mesek Eliezer. She says, why is he called the Mesek Eliezer? Because he's Doyle, Umashke, Teres, the Rebbe to the Talmidim. So the Shiva said this was the thing that Avram realized is no good. Then it says, Vayema Avram Heilino Sata Zera V'hinei Ben Beisi Yoshesi. And he says again, what do you mean he says again? It's exactly the same thing he said before. And the Rebbeinu Shem didn't reply to him in the middle at all. So the Rebbeinu Shem didn't reply to him. Why did he say second by him? It happened in one other place like that I know. I have no teretz for there over there because I don't know where it is. That's why, but it's in Chumash. That either Moshe says twice Vayem or something. That he's talking to the Rebbeinu Shem. But anyway, but over here, this is the Rashiva's Vach that you don't have what is the two Vayemes. And besides, he's saying exactly the same thing. I have no children, and my guy is going to hurt me. So the way the Shiva Lamb shot, originally he held, okay, I have no kids. The tachlis of life was not so I should have kids, I should have a numa. The tachlis of life was that I should bring the Rebbeinu Shloim's this galus into the world. People should realize there's a Rebbeinu Shem in the world. That's my purpose. Okay, I don't have children. I have Talmidim. So my Talmidim will take over. My chief Talmud is Eliezer. Okay, and Lamaisi, he says over my Shiurim. So they got my Shiurim there, so what's the problem? So it says the Torah to make something go and work, it has to be Torah delay. It has to become your Torah. And the God doesn't bring it in this. I don't know if he brings it in the Shiur Takit. It's the 10th Shiur in Shabbos. It's on Daf Yud in Shabbos Takit. There's a Rashi there that talks about Achlekes between Rabbi Yochanan, that the Rabbi Baba Chone's son asked Rabbi Baba Chone if you're allowed to eat something in Pesach. She said to him, it's a Machlekes Abai Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. So what did he answer by saying, Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan said, you're stuck. But I'm a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, I can eat. Hey, just tell me, I'll also be, you can eat, because Rabbi Yochanan said you can eat. What's your problem? Right? No, it's not good enough for me. I'm not a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. You're a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. The son is not a Talmud of either one. I'm not Talmud of either one. Now I hear it's machlekes, I'm stuck. I can't eat anymore. Okay, so that's the point. So in other words, unless I make the Torah delay, it becomes my Torah. Now, as Rabbi Babachana says, I hold its mutter. Why do I hold its mutter? Because I was mekabel from Rabbi Yochanan, and he held his mutter. He always told his mutter, and I learned over the shiur, and I looked over Rav stuff, and I slugged up Rav 14 times. And the Mele, the halacha, I'm telling you, you're allowed to do it. Now then he's allowed to do it. But if he can't say that, he can only say, I don't know what's right and wrong. I only know I'm a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, and I listen to Rabbi Yochanan, whatever he says. You're not a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, so you can't claim that. But Lamai says, for you, it's a machlekes, Rabbi Yochanan. And you got to go Lechum, it's a Safek D'Raisis. A Safek D'Raisis, you got to go Lechum. So therefore, the religion can't last too long with such a Safek. If everything's going to be a Safek D'Raisis, the way he was talking about, so all the Torah in the world does, like the thing there, I heard somebody there may have been mata something or other, and all of a sudden everybody's mata it. I mean, obviously that doesn't mean anything, right? But if let's say so, I have to go l'chumrah then. If you keep going l'chumrah all the time, on a suffix and a suffix and a suffix and a suffix, and you keep going l'chumrah because we don't know anything, the religion can't exist. You can't live. You can't live, so therefore the religion won't exist. People will go away from it. It's when you started to understand how you can live with the times, with things, then you can live. That was the Gadol Torah Shiva God. That was able to make possible to live with America, with all the things there, because it's regular life, like the way we know it, and it's a ganz final life. I don't think anybody of us can object to it. And Baruch Hashem, now even from a Yidden are rich. So it's a vada good. So you see there that the tremendous thing, and that was the Rav Shiva's main keach in America. Then this was before the Bris Ben Absalom. So the Bris Ben Absalom, we have a very interesting thing over here, that he tells her, Vayem Hashem, Vayem Elov, Ani Hashem, Asher Tzisicha Meyukaz Nuslecha Sorot Hazais. I took you out of Ur Kasdim to give you this land. Now, you have a first kasha, you took me out of Ur Kasdim. I left Ur Kasdim. You know why I left Ur Kasdim? Because they threw me into a Kivshin Shalesh, and I came out, and my father got chicken, and he schlepped me and my wife and my what do you call it? And he schlepped us away to go to Cholan. What did you do, God? Who do you think caused it to happen? Everything that happens to anybody, you should know the Rebbeinu Shalom is the one that's making you over there. It's not you thought, I thought I'm going there. You made nothing. The Rebbeinu Shalom gave you the idea to go, or he forced you the situation to go, or to do business, or to do anything. That's what that's his control over us. That everything is his plan, or whatever he has in mind, whatever you want to call it. So that's exactly what he's telling me here. I'm the one that took it out of Eretz Canaan, and I want to give you the land. But you should know when he asks a question about Moeda, whatever that is, how should I know? The way you look at it, how should I know? Or you're getting a punishment for how should you know? I mean, it could be, it is or not, I don't know, but it's definitely not the way normal people, but people think normally that because you asked, how would I know? That's not fair. Let me ask you, if something's going to happen after your death, is it ever possible for you to know? You only have to have trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? That's going to happen, the way it was said. I have no raya it's going to happen. I have no proof. Even if I write everything in my will, and I write thing, and I put down people that to be the guys in charge of my will. What does it mean? Well, they may listen, they may not listen. And if I'm dead, I'm dead. Right? So what do I know what's going to happen? So what am I saying about Moeda? How am I going to know? You'll never know. Elavos, he means, it's somehow that I'm asking for a guarantee. That was the Benishim's time. If I'm telling you, you don't have to ask for a guarantee. By Moeda, I don't need a bris. Just by Moeda, I told you so. That's all. That's enough. And that was the Tainan Avram. For that, you can have 400 years, your children will be Avodim. Now, Avram made a big cheshbon here. If I start 400 years for my children, that means we have to start from the time they go down to Mitzrayim, right? I want them to start from the time Yitzchak is born. Why? Well, my child, he promised me already. No, he didn't promise me yet, Yitzchak. He just said, I'll have children. But for my children are born, because he says my children they'll be first Eretz Lehem, in a land that's not theirs. It doesn't say the Rabbanim. Eretz Lehem. Then there'll be the Avodim, there'll be servants. Now, with servants can be rich people. Eved Melech. What do you call it? Yosef was an Eved of Pari. Well, he's the richest man in Mitzrayim. There's no problem about being an Eved of Pari. So therefore, being an Eved, not of Avodim, Ve'inu Oisom, they're going to punish him. There are 3 degrees that the Yidden will go through in this 400-year period. So therefore, he says, I'd rather start with Yitzchak's birth. Starts with Yitzchak's birth, so I don't take the land. As soon as Yitzchak is born, he's in an Evetz Loy. It's not his land. He's in already, my children are not in their land. And they went down to Mitzrayim. In the beginning, they were Avodim. They were Avodim to Pari, but they were the rulers of the country, right? Until the Inu which was only approximately about 80-something years. That was the Inu not even out of the 210. But the other way, they were only 210 years in Mitzrayim instead of 400 years in Mitzrayim. Because they counted the years, they wouldn't count Canaan. So therefore it says, so really Avram doesn't want the land now. So it says over here, after the bris, Vayem hahu kos Hashem es Avram bris leimor, I'm giving it to your children. I agreed with your taina, and that's what's going to happen. We're going to give it to your children, not to you. And it says Hashem, I say next week I'll let you know what happens. Have a good Shabbos, and a good Yom, everybody, and all good things.
Shabbos, Reuven. Shabbos, Reuven.
Shabbos, Reuven.